This is eCoffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
Patrick Cunningham, welcome to eCoffee with Experts. Good to have you.
Pleasure to be here. Really nice to meet you, Austin.
Nice to meet you. To kick us off, if I'm a 5-year-old, help the audience understand what you do in your role as the co-founder and the director of Indulge.
As a 5-year-old, build websites, build apps, keep Indulge running, do the finances, manage our clients, and many more hats. Those are the kind of the main things, yeah.
Right? You wear many hats, but you have a technical background. And you're working in the regulated spaces, financial industries, and helping those brands get seen. And a large part of your content, like your strategy, is thought leadership. I'm curious, what are your speeches about these days? Like, what are your talks about? What are you writing about? Like, what is the central theme in what you're discussing in your thought leadership?
It's all AI, really, with a specific, with a focus on development. My background is a developer. We founded Indulge in 2009. We've been running almost 17 years, and whilst we are a digital agency, do lots of digital marketing, digital strategy. We do lots of UX research and UX design, do lots of development across websites and both apps. But on the spectrum of digital agencies, definitely closer to the technical end. We've got loads of technical nous, technical experience, and that comes across all of the work we do. So everything we do, from building websites to the UX research and design and the digital marketing stuff, is all very carefully thought through. And we take a sort of scientific, kind of analytical approach to a lot of the work we do.
What I notice is what's starting to separate agencies and even brands from everybody else is because AI is so accessible and so easy to use. It's so easy to produce. And I think we get caught up in that. Like, we can produce more content. We can quickly build an app. We can quickly build websites. But what I think that you do really well, and Indulge does really well, is that you take a human-centered approach to listening. I notice that you're very careful about understanding what the human experience is based on the services that you provide. How do you go about systematically listening to your audience, to your clients? What are some of the methods that you're using to gather data in order to produce better?
Well, a lot of it is just down to speaking to people, really. All of the projects that we take on, whether it's building up a brief for a digital marketing campaign, or designing a website, or building an app, it's really important to keep on speaking to, for example, the users of the app. You speak to the client about what they want the app to do, and you can take those requirements. And often if you build that out, you'll get something that's works reasonably well. But actually, it's more important to try and speak to the users of the app. And that could be the clients themselves. It could be their customer support team, or it could be their clients. So often for us, it's really about just getting in front of the actual end users and asking them about what their goals are in using the app. What are they struggling with at the moment? Are there any particular, if they already have an app and they're rebuilding it, what are the elements they're struggling with? And then we'll kind of keep those users in the loop, periodically hook them in and show them perhaps wireframes or mock-ups as the prototypes start to come together. We might get them to start using some of these prototypes. So it really is about just keeping the users in the loop and communicating with them. And I think there are definitely AI tools out there that can simulate that kind of feedback. But the feedback would often be very generalist, because all these AI models are just trained on the most average application out there. So they're not very specialist. So you'll kind of, you'll build something that's reasonable. But actually, if you want to build something that really stands out, it's about getting feedback from those real humans.
Yeah, from real humans. There's a difference between people and a person. And I think that's kind of what's overlooked, and that's where the gap exists. Is like, I noticed that the companies, the agencies that are really making moves and staying ahead in this, post AI world are the ones who focus on the person and not on people in general. Now, you were mentioning to me before we started a really cool strategy that you're rolling out internally, where you're using AI to do deep research on people in general, right? Your target market, trying to find the perfect client,
Yeah.
and then looping that in and becoming more and more niche and specific. Can you walk me through a little bit of like how you're thinking about that and what you're using?
Yeah. So, I mean, something we've been running for a few months as part of our own marketing strategy and also helping some of our clients with is it's a form of account-based marketing. I mean, that's been around for years, right? You sort of go out and you find your sort of perfect client and you try and connect with them in different ways. But actually, some of the AI tools that are coming out now, deep research tools, Perplexity has one that's free. Gemini's got an incredibly powerful one. OpenAI have got one that you can access to, ChatGPT. These tools, you ask them a question, they'll come back with a few sort of counter questions, and then they'll go off, research for 10, 15 minutes and come back with an essay, a 1,000-word report on whatever you're looking to achieve. And so we've been using that to research into potential new business opportunities. So, for example, we'll go into Gemini and we'll ask it to research into clients who specialize in finance. And we do a lot of work in the finance industry and we understand regulated businesses quite well. So we might say to Gemini, right, go and find me 20 businesses in the finance sector across Manchester, Birmingham, and London of a particular size who are undergoing some form of change, growth, investment. And that change, growth, investment might take the form of a change of guard in the C-suite. So lots of new decision makers coming in. It might be that they're launching a whole load of new products. They've got a whole load of new campaigns running. They might have launched a new B2C campaign, whereas previously they were B2B. So you're looking for businesses that are really active and driving and looking to grow quite fast. And then from there, you can sort of do a research report. Once you've got your initial 10 leads, you can then do a research report on each individual firm to start pulling out who the key decision makers are, and also to start figuring out what the individual challenges that each one of those firms might be facing. You can also glean from the information that they publicly put out through LinkedIn and through the internet. You can pick up a pretty good idea of what their actual marketing strategy is. So you can start to figure out which ones are kind of aligned with how you work as an agency and produce a short list of maybe 5 firms that you want to start going after. And then, you can start trying to connect with these key people on LinkedIn. You can start writing articles that address some of the challenges that they're facing and just start to align your thought leadership and your content strategy with topics that will resonate with these firms. And if you're, a lot of these firms might be quite big brands. And if you're kind of putting out general publicity, like entering awards and stuff, it might be that they're at the same awards ceremony. So you've seen your brand pop up. And if you're also connecting with some of their team and also they're seeing like relevant articles pop up on their LinkedIn, suddenly you're kind of all over their various feeds.
Yeah.
And then you can reach out and start a conversation, and you've almost warmed up that lead before it even starts. That's the theory. It's still quite early days for us. It's a very long game, I think, but it's we're quite excited about that approach, and we're also helping a load of clients out in different sectors and different parts of the finance industry with a similar kind of approach as well. So that's really interesting. It's a really interesting use of AI in sales and marketing and lead generation for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And the next step we'll take in this conversation is going to be more on the development side. But just to kind of put a pin in that side, the business development side, it was something that we were just talking about internally today or yesterday. We were reflecting on November's, revenue months against target. And we looked at where a majority of the leads came from, where the business came from. And there were, I think it was 2/3 of the business was generated through in-person contacts at events and conferences.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was kind of remarkable to see that as techy and as automated as everything is becoming, still the most reliable and highest value clients are from the one-on-one conversations that you meet in person.
Yeah.
So
and that's the same for us. Yeah. Like networking and meeting people face to face is still, and recommendations. I think any agency in the world will tell you that that's the main source of high quality leads. Because fundamentally, humans buy services from humans, don't they? If you're going to spend a lot of money on an app or a project or a digital campaign, you want to be spending that money with someone who you've got a rapport with. And it's difficult to build up a rapport unless you're actually chatting to them.
Yeah. There's the, we'll have an online conversation and then wouldn't it be exciting if we could meet in person?
Yeah,
Those are typically a lot harder to build than the opposite way, right? Meeting in person
yeah,
and then taking it online, which
yeah.
funny enough, kind of a tangent, but Malcolm Gladwell, who's an author, he has one of my favorite books is called Talking to Strangers. And he basically, the book is like, how well do we as humans assess like the trustworthiness of the other person? And we tend to think that we can gauge the trust of the other, but from his research and from the book, it's really kind of a coin flip on whether or not our initial thoughts about another person tend to be correct or not. So yeah, kind of a tangent. Very interesting book, Talking to Strangers, Malcolm
Yeah,
Gladwell.
first impressions are important. I think that's something I've learned over the years
Definitely.
as well. Yeah.
Definitely. So tell me about your tech stack right now, and then we'll go into how you're using it, both with individual developers and then as a team. But yeah, what's your tech stack right now?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we're, we're a LAMP house, Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP primarily. We do loads of work with Drupal, loads of work with Laravel, a little bit of work with headless stuff. But yeah, most of the work we do is Laravel and Drupal. In terms of the tools we use, I'm absolutely, I still get my hands dirty quite a lot. I'm on the tools a lot. Part of the reason I started an agency is because I love coding. I love building websites. I don't want to lose that. So all the directors at Indulge, we try and do at least 50% on production, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on what's going on. And the kind of recent developments in, I mean, AI development in general, software development has always been a real killer use case for AI from the very early versions of ChatGPT. It was always coding
Mm-hmm.
that were one of the most amazing things that it could do. And recently, with that developments in tools like Claude Code and Codex, which is OpenAI's kind of equivalent coding tool, these are like truly agentic software development tools. You can give them a task and they'll go off and look through an entire code base.
Mm.
They'll pick up on the paradigms, the way you've built an app, and they'll build out new features and explore new features and create them and using the same kind of paradigms that the rest of the application is built in. And I've found that the output is just incredible as
Mm.
long as you're kind of using it in the right way. So for me, building out applications, I'm more of a back end developer. So recently I built a back end for a mobile app that we launched, which was in the health space. There's an app for a friend of mine. Actually, she got breast cancer and got quite ill, but she's an absolute force of nature. And so off the back of her, fortunately she recovered.
Mm.
Off the back of her recovery, she decided to launch this app called My Breastfriend.
Mm.
And it's really just a reminder app. So you log in, you enter details of your menstrual cycle, and it'll basically remind you to do a check every month in line with your menstrual cycle and give you guides on how to check and what to look for and stuff like that. But anyway, it's a really great app, absolute pleasure to be able to plug it on here because it's
Yeah,
completely
right.
free, it's a great app. But I built a back end for it, right? And it's, built in Laravel, you've got an authentication layer, you've got push notifications, you've got reminders, you've got registration, all this kind of complexity there. And using Claude Code to build that, I found that rather than saving loads of time, a lot of developers will go into these tools thinking, I can do a week's work in 2 hours, happy days.
Mm-hmm.
But I went into this thinking, I'm going to spend a week on it,
Mm.
but it's going to be 10 times better than
Yeah.
if I, a week's work kind of 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And actually, it took me more than a week to build it. It was quite a big project. I probably put as much time into that as I would have done pre-AI, but the difference in terms of the quality of that end result is massive. Like traditionally, development has always been about compromises. There's never enough time
Mm-hmm.
to build a piece of software to the quality that you want within the constraints of the client's budget and the timeframes that you've got. So you're always compromising, whether that's restricting the feature set or putting in place a workaround for something that should be built in a more elegant way, and maybe not building out as many unit tests as you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
But with My Breastfriend, we achieved kind of 80% unit test coverage, a really incredible level of security. The whole platform was just incredibly stable. When it went into QA, there were literally 2 bugs with the back end. For, given that it was quite a sophisticated kind of API, it was just absolutely mind blowing how far I was able to take that. That was purely through using a tool like Claude Code. And I think a lot of developers the more senior a developer is, the more concerned they are about kind of relinquishing control to these AI coding tools, because they think it introduce security issues, or it's going to build out loads of random features that I don't need. I like to use a shopping center analogy. If you don't monitor what it's going to do, right? It's like, you ask it to build a coffee shop, right? And you leave it going, and then a couple of hours later you come back and it's built you a coffee shop, but you go through the back door of the coffee shop and there's a whole shopping centre full of shops and you don't know it's there. You got shoe shops and like clothes shops and nail bars and vape bars, and they're all like, hustling and bustling, and all you can see is the coffee shop. So you need to monitor what it's doing, you need to use it in the right way. But if you can keep it focused on building that coffee shop, you'll get the best coffee shop that you've ever made. So there's a technique to it, and I wrote an article on the My Breastfriend project recently as well. I'll send you a link about what I learned from
Very
using
cool.
Claude Code to build the app, and there's loads of really useful tips and tricks in there. It's about building it feature by feature, building the tests first, and then building the functionality to fulfill the tests, running periodic refactoring cycles and periodic security audit cycles, just following that process step by step, and at every stage checking the output, making sure you're reviewing the code that it's producing and that it's building the app in aligned with the sort of the architecture that you've planned in your head. So as an experienced developer, building out these back-end APIs, 100% allowing me to build way better software. But more importantly, it's allowing me to build software that's way better than someone who doesn't have any development experience, who's trying to sort of vibe code this thing, Yeah. So, and as such, I think that the future's quite bright for developers, because if you're using the software right, you can still produce an output that's elevated. People hire agencies because they want people, because they need skills and experience and knowledge to help them deliver against their business's objectives. And they hire an agency because an agency can elevate the output of that business, right, beyond what they can do in-house. And I think some people look at AI and think, oh, well, AI is going to replace agencies because it does all the work that agencies do. I don't think that's true, because I think as an agency, if you can use AI to elevate your work beyond what the client could do using AI, you're still adding value. So the client will still hire you, because even though, you're using AI in a more effective way, you're using it to augment and multiply your own skills and knowledge and produce a result that still adds value to the end client. So that's kind of how we're approaching it. And as a result, we're all over AI. We're looking at every aspect, every facet of what we do. And we're thinking, how can we use AI to amplify the skills and knowledge that our team already have and make us stand out even more than we do already.
Yeah. There's kind of two sides to that, and you touched on both. One is, how can we get AI to do the things that we have deficiencies in, like, or whether that be time or financial resources, such as deep research, like just go out and do all of this because we can't do it. But then you can also, like you said, amplify the skills that we already do have. And, we have front end revenue and we have back end like efficiency. And it sounds like you guys are kind of pushing both sides of that just to maximize, the business value that AI is bringing. How are tools like Claude Code and, Codex from OpenAI, how are those changing the way that your teams work, I guess, internally? Like in 3 years' time, what will your development team look like? And what's it going to look like?
Well, it's kind of unpredictable, isn't it? I mean, AI is moving so quickly, but right now, as of now, AI is just making our team way more productive, and it's allowing us to deliver way more value to our clients. And fundamentally, it's allowing us we're using that resource that we've got in our development team to just build everything to a much better quality, way more stable, way more secure, way more robust, wider feature set, better tested. And that's adding a lot more value to our clients. So as it stands, the way we generally work for bigger projects, we work in agile sprints, and that's still really relevant. it still works really well for smaller projects and retainers and the kind of general jobs that come through the agency. A ticket will come in, we'll book it into the team. One of our team will work on that job. It will go out to potentially to a designer if some design input is needed. And actually that fundamental flow, I don't see it changing massively, but the volume of work that we can get done and the quality of that work will just increase. And I think I mentioned that development is always about compromise. And so there's a lot of headroom in terms of doing better quality work and doing more work and getting to that point. And so at the moment, we're just eating into that kind of headroom, and we're raising the bar on the quality and the work that we do. I don't know, at some point, maybe the AI tools will get so good that actually that headroom starts to run out and clients start doing it themselves. And, maybe at some point vibe coding will become something that is kind of good enough to launch really robust production grade apps. And at that point, our business model might have to change a little bit. But I think, I don't know, I don't see that happening soon. I've played a lot with vibe coding. The vibe coding apps like Lovable and Replit, and they're amazing for prototyping. They're really cool.
Yeah.
But as soon as you start to build more levels of sophistication and complexity into those apps, you start to get a shopping center out the back, and you can't look under the bonnet. So and things start to kind of go sideways and a bit wonky. And you need to be able to look at the code and see where, capture these little side loops and things that are going on so you can close them off before they become a problem. And when you're vibe coding, that's quite hard. And I think that's kind of a fundamental challenge with these vibe coding tools. I'm not sure if they'll overcome that anytime soon. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm hopeful. Yeah.
It is interesting to see the melted finger or like the melted face version that ChatGPT used to create with images, to see that in app form. But that was actually one of the, that's exactly where my mind went is, as an agency, as a director with 25 years of development, full stack development experience, like how do you perceive agencies who are maybe trying to step into this vibe coding era? I guess what would you have to say to clients who are considering two different agencies and they're like, well, you know what, these guys are way cheaper, they can produce working apps with vibe coding, but you guys are way more expensive. I get it, you have 2.5 decades worth of experience, but like, at the end of the day, it's all about the dollar,
Well, I'd ask them to think about what the app's doing and to think about the ramifications of if the app went wrong. So, you're building a little brochure site, you're not collecting any personal data, it's not doing anything potentially dangerous with that data. Vibe coding a project like that is absolutely fine, It doesn't really matter if it's a bit messy under the bonnet, as long as it loads quickly and it works. And from a search perspective, it's got your schema and your meta tags and all that stuff, then fine, like go ahead and do it. But I'd say if you're building an app that's inviting users to register and provide information on their, I don't know, if you look at My Breastfriend, for example, provide health information related to their menstrual cycle and information on like if they detected an issue, information that they've potentially got, signs of cancer. Are you collecting credit card payments? Like, is the data that you're processing sensitive? And then you say to the client, well, you could have someone vibe code this for $500, but think about the ramifications of if this data got breached. And in the EU, you've got the GDPR regulations, which means that if personal data like that is breached, I think there's a similar one in California, various states in the US that have similar regulation, then you could be faced with massive fines. You could be subject to an investigation from the data protection office in your local jurisdiction. It's a big deal. And if someone manages to hack into your app and swatch out your payment provider with a fake one, and then they're capturing people's credit card details, the ramifications are huge. It really comes down to security and the robustness of that. And actually, it's quite difficult to validate the security of something that's vibe coded. Yeah, it comes down to how sophisticated the app is. Like a simple interface, a simple little app, like go for it.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah.
Like save the money because it'll be absolutely fine. As soon as you're asking users to register and capture information and you're crunching that information, doing stuff with it, that's when the risk goes up, and that's when you should be thinking about actually engaging a developer who actually understands what's going on under the bonnet, who can look at the code and validate it and audit it and make sure that it's doing what you expect it to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a really important thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Cheap is costly. I always ask, yeah, this sounds great, but what is the cost? It's not just
Yeah.
on the front end, it's on the back end and risk mitigation. And you see this even with other AI companies that are coming out. They're not just pushing the frontier, but they're saying, hey, you guys are blazing a trail, but you're leaving bodies in your wake. We're launching an initiative to help make sure that AI is safe and that we're protecting people against some of those instances that you were just talking about. I know we're short on time here. Where I guess if you were to talk to, which I'm sure you do, like a class of developers or a class of, people who are interested in computer science or, any sort of development, what sort of a message are you telling them about the future?
AI will definitely be a massive part of any developer's workflow in the future. So if you're a junior, you're a student and you're thinking of getting into development, and become AI fluent as soon as you can. Like, use these tools, embrace them, install Cursor, have a play around with it, install Claude Code, use it, get to grips with it and familiarize yourself with it. That's really important. But I'd also, in equal measure, I'd also say, choose your stack and understand that stack as well. Because it's really important that you can read the code that it's producing and effectively approve that code as it comes out, as it is produced. Because if you want to build robust apps and robust websites, you need to understand the architecture of those sites, and you need to be the one designing it and guiding the build, technically how it hangs together. The AI can write the code, but you need to review that code and make sure that it's heading in the right direction. And that's really important. So yeah, carry on with learning how to code for sure. It's learn HTML, learn CSS, and then learn PHP. And then once you've got those nailed, learn Laravel and some of the frameworks that sit across the top of that. Learn Git and all the tools that you need to be a fully rounded developer. But at the same time, definitely get stuck into AI and don't be afraid of it for sure. Because don't refuse to use it, because once it forgot to escape a string, in ChatGPT. I speak to developers and they'll be like, once in ChatGPT, it forgot to put a closing curly bracket on a function, it's crap. I'm not going to use it ever again. But that's just not true.
Yeah.
You shouldn't, what did I write in my article? Something like, treat it as an equal, and you'll get a lot more out of it. Don't go in there thinking I'm way better than this, and this is devaluing the work that I'm doing, and it's not going to write code that is as quality as the code that I can write. Because a lot of the time that isn't true. In the code that's coming out of these new models from Anthropic, the new Opus 4.5 that I've been using in Claude Code recently, is absolutely incredible. And I've been developing for 25 years, and it writes code as well as I do, often way better.
Wow.
And it's, as well as writing better code, it's aware of recent libraries and recent developments, and it provides ideas as to how you can structure the application to be more efficient and more scalable. And so it solves a lot of problems as well before you even come across them. So yeah, definitely swallow your pride, treat it as an equal, don't be afraid of it, and use it in the right way. If you choose the right tools and the right workflow, you'll just get so much out of it.
I love that. It's the future is hopeful for those who believe in it and want to stick to it.
Yeah.
Patrick Cunningham, where can we find more about you and about Indulge?
Indulge.digital, our website. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. Just search for Patrick Cunningham Indulge. More than happy to connect and have a conversation with anyone. I'm always banging on about AI. I'm happy to chew the fat. I could talk about it for hours. I'm happy to chew the fat on it from a development perspective, from a general business perspective, and in terms of kind of impact on humanity and society in general. I'm just absolutely obsessed by the topic, and that's resulted in me becoming a kind of an inadvertent thought leader.
Yeah.
I never set out to be a thought leader, but it's happened, and people ask me to do talks, and I write articles, and it's kind of just come out of my own passion for technology, really, and what it's doing and where it's all going.
Yeah. And I hope our audience does reach out to you. Like we said at kind of the top of the episode, really the human connection is what's driving this entire economy and future forward. If we rely on just the machines, like who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, it's good to know that your arms are open and you're looking to talk with people. That's the future that I want to see too. So thank you
Great.
for being here.
No problem. No, it's always really, really, really excited to talk about AI, and it's been really nice to talk to you, Austin. So thanks a lot for the invite. Appreciate it.
Very welcome. Cheers.